Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Naruto met Succubus and Harem? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content, and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the Miso Sparks for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story. Link in the description. Naruto was walking through the forest. He sighed. It was a sunny day on the outskirts of Konoha. The birds chirped and the trees rustled around him. But Naruto wasn't paying attention. Instead, he was focused on his task ahead of him. It was getting increasingly harder and harder to see that the goal of being Hokage was a lot of hard work. Although he was a proud shinobi ninja, he always felt like a misfit among his peers. The worst part of all, he didn't even have a girlfriend. Sakura, the girl who he had been crushing on since he was a kid, was always going to over Sasuke. Hinata and the other girls never gave him the time of day. He didn't think of himself as unattractive. Was it his whisker marks? He just didn't understand it. He was 19 years old, and never once had some type of mate to be with. It was all so confusing for him. Maybe he could stay in the forest to clear his head for a few minutes about all the thoughts running through his head. Then all of a sudden he heard a girl sobbing. It was reverberating so he couldn't pinpoint it. Shit, he thought to himself. He didn't know where to go. He really wanted to find that noise. But what if this place is cursed or something? No, wait a minute. He looked to the north side and saw a young woman crouching down, crying in a way that oozes despair. Naruto rushed to her side. Are you okay?" he stated. She lifted her head. This woman had pink hair that went down to her shoulders and brown ember eyes. She wore a tan blouse with blue shorts, but from all indications, her clothes looked like they had been ripped apart. "And my dad beat me up and kicked me out of the house because he was going to force me to marry someone." Naruto frowned at this. He knew how unfair the world could be, but that doesn't mean it was any less harsh or cruel. He gently sat down beside her and held his arm in support. "I'm sorry, it must be awful being forced to make your marriage with your father. Do you want to talk about it? Maybe I can help you." She looked at this fine stranger and smiled somberly. Thanks, my name is Shana. And I'm from the Rain Village. I ran as far away as possible," she whispered, sniffling a little bit. Naruto couldn't just let her stay here. Do you want to into Konoha with me?" Naruto asked, showing a toothy grin, trying to lighten the mood. Her face lit up a bit. "Really, are you sure? I don't want to be a burden or anything," Shana stated. Naruto shook his head and patted her. "No, don't say that. I'm just gonna tell Bachan about your situation and see if she could help. I know she won't turn you down." He offered a hand to her. She smiled and bet it. "Thank you, Naruto." She then looked a little brighter. It took about an hour for her to explain everything that happened and explain why she left and ended up living alone at some random location. Naruto couldn't help but feel sympathy for her. As she spoke to him, he noticed that her teeth canines looked a bit sharper than usual humans. From an hour ago, that was strange, but he didn't question it. As they were walking, Shana looked over at Naruto and smiled. I need to tell me something, and I think you might like it," Shana explained to him, showing a good-natured toothy grin. Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Why, what is it?" Naruto asked. They stopped walking. She then stepped back and her good angelic smile turned into a sinister smirk. All of a sudden, purple mist to flow all around her. Her appearance changed. That's why Naruto noticed something a little different about her. She hangs small fangs but didn't really pay attention to it. "Surprise, my actual name is Shamsil Shahar. It's a bit long, so you can just call me Shamsil. We're going to have so much fun together," she said in delight, making a wide pose. The mist had finally cleared so he could see his true form. She was wearing bridal gauntlets, knee-high boots, blue laced ai, and demonic S protruding from both sides. Her S were a D cup and had a visible L toe. She had her upon staring at Naruto. He drew his kunai. He was taken aback from all this. He had those species like this. "But I thought you were an abused young girl?" he said in horror. His kunai then turned into a fruit. "Succubus like me have gotten creative on luring their traps," she giggled. She then narrowed her eyes, and all of a sudden her tail extended from within her and wrapped Naruto's groin area. He winced and then tried to create a Rasengan, but it turned to ash. Whoever this creature was, she was powerful. "Trust me, you'll feel happy and you'll go to heaven after I'm done, she whispered. Her tail then emitted a red mist. The blonde-haired shinobi tried to fight back, but he was turning into a tired husk. "Now hold still," she ordered. He obeyed, and soon enough she got her to wish. Naruto opened his eyes in a groggy state. He examined the room. It was a one-room bed with the only source of light being the candle on a small table. He was completely Next to his side, standing up, it was Chamisil, who was being herself profusely upon the sight of him. "You have no idea how hard it was to knock you in the forest," she said, also using her right hand to fondle her. "I'm going to enjoy this. I looked into your memories and found that you're surprising. I guess Sakura or Hinata thought they could do better than you. Be grateful that you're going to die and blessed with my," she chuckled. "Better than you." Something snapped in Naruto upon hearing those words. He had been ridiculed his entire life, and now some succubus was laughing at him. Anger coursed throughout him as he stood up. He then bed Shamsiel and slammed her down on the bed. "You demonic!" he growled. Shamsiel was shocked by his actions, and he did this while having a full-on hard-on. He then smashed his with hers, wrestling his with hers. He bed her one piece and ripped it apart, his hands to grope and made her ing them as hard as he could. "Gee, good thing I set up a sound barrier," she thought. His pre-ping her stomach and was on the side of his. Naruto then let go of her and as he positioned himself. Her eyes lit up. "You slide that in and you're dead. No human male will survive me," she chuckled. Naruto didn't care and went back to ing Shamsiel. His then, causing her mild shivers, he had her good and it felt as though his member was reorganizing her. He was going at a faster pace, pressing her. "Oh," she said, and he grunted. He felt. "You're not dead yet. You must really have some type of pig or something," she smiled, breathing totally hitched. Her face was drunken red. He chuckled evilly. His whole demeanor had changed previously before, and he was not pondering his life anymore. This was at his peak. Who knew this event would ever happen? He positioned Shamsiel on her knees and hands, and previously he had begun to her, but her. "Me Naruto, me with that of yours, Succubus are only living to be ed by men and with lots of me just like this." Shamsiel and shivered. His balls were slapping her, and she felt every last bit of it. He then exploded her while bing her red tail and putting it in his ing it, and taking her batwings with his right hand. From that moment this caused her to shout from the top of her lungs. This greedy human was really taking her like this. Loads and loads of were the pink-haired succubus. Naruto turned her around as he spat out on her face, and on her He then smiled, and even on her as his was spitting out his worm on them. "It's your tiara, made from my," he laughed. Shamsiel blushed. She was truly a princess being showered with Naruto's. Her eyes glanced down from his face to his member. It was as hard as ever. He then ed off in front of her. "Don't think we're done yet. You wanted me and now you have me," he smiled. Shamsiel dimmed her eyes and looked at him directly, smirking. She loved every minute of this. He had no idea how long this would take, but he was completely head over heels with the succubus who wanted him to death. He was why and didn't care what would happen. He then pounced on her again, being his hardened on her. She ed in delight. She was totally obedient to this human that she was about to make disappear. A few hours later, several hours later, many hours later, Shamsiel was in a daze. Her entire body was caked in Naruto's dry. The small window to the mysterious place she took both of them shined a little bit of light. Her eyes fluttered open. In all her time on this planet she had never felt like that before. Being ed like that by a human was a disgrace to some succubus, but she didn't care about that. Her rustling on the bed was enough to wake up Naruto, who covered himself up and wrapped his hands around her body, cupping her warm ass. "Am morning time already?" he asked groggily. "Am I dead?" Shamsiel smiled. "No, you're very much alive. You have the best ever. You ed me stupid," she blushed, binged the back of her head. Naruto still couldn't understand how all of this happened. He got up gingerly and turned to see her. "So, why did you do all of that yesterday?" he asked. "To be honest, I'd been watching you for a few days now. And although I did want you to death, you were a lot stronger with me with your high libido. I can't believe you were before we met yesterday. You're quite the stud." She blushed. "So, where do we go from here?" Naruto asked. "Having with a succubus is awesome, and I no longer feel any sadness anymore. I should just tell Bachan to keep you with me as I said before," Naruto stated. Shamsiel nodded her head. "Yeah, I'm addicted to your healthy now." She giggled. She then raised her hand and petted his ing it. Naruto ed and then detoured her, pre-glossing her. She lapped all up and sighed in delight. "Can you transform into a normal appearance?" Naruto asked. "I think the villagers would be wondering why there's a succubus with and a red tail." He chuckled sheepishly. She obeyed his command and then her tail to go of her, while her disappeared. Her pupils looked less demonic than before, but her fangs stayed in place. Naruto shrugged. This was a ninja world, and appearances can always differ. See, just a normal human girl, she giggled. She teased her boobs by holding on to them and dropping them, enabling the jiggle physics. Naruto gulped as his member hardened again. Shamsil laughed. She's most likely going to be enslaved by his now. No other human male can satisfy her now other than him. Why yeah, we should probably get you some new clothes also. I don't think wearing a one-piece IE suit is a smart idea. You're gonna have eyes you. Shamsil said. She looked at her ripped one piece on the floor. No man had ever done that. Naruto must have insane strength. She then to glow for a second and had now changed into a dark purple shirt and gray shorts. That's better, Naruto smiled at her. She nodded, and they then set off walking towards the village. The journey to the village was quite silent on Naruto's part. He was trying not to freak out with the fact that this could easily turn into a nightmare in the blink of an eye if anyone were to see them. But that didn't matter. To the eye, she was an ordinary human girl. But to him, he knew her. She was Shamsil the Succubus. He had a feeling this was going to be one of the best times in his life. Oh, and guess what? I got this a sound ninja headband with the symbol crossed out. She used her long claws to mark it. Naruto was impressed. This would make it more convincing. How did you obtain this? He asked, bing the headband from her and inspecting it. I kind of borrowed it from a kunoichi, she giggled, bing the back of her head. Flashback 2 weeks ago. A sound ninja was sprawled out on her bed, her mind in an erotic daze of what just occurred. She was completely and couldn't her legs. Her body was full of beads of sweat and Shamsil stood up and put on her one piece again. I'm just gonna borrow this, she stated. She bed the headband from the desk of the kunoichi. Thanks for the wide time. Once I saw you and your body I couldn't resist. It's for a plan that is devising, she whispered. She nodded respectfully and flew out of the window into the night. Flashback end. Wow, you're a thief, Naruto muttered. Rolling his eyes, Shamsil giggled. It was consensual though, so at least there's that. She shrugged. As they were walking back to Konoha, Naruto can't help but just be overwhelmed by everything that was going on. Here is a succubus from some demonic realm, following him back to Konoha after deceiving him. What if she was just tricking him in the first place and just using him and the other villagers as food? Naruto was already a distant person and considered by many to be an outcast. He pondered for a while when all of a sudden Shamsil was poking his cheeks. Such adorable whiskers. She genuinely smiled at him, showing her fangs. Naruto's heart was beating. Nobody complimented him on his whiskers. To him he felt like he was an outcast because of them. Hey, why don't you give me a piggyback ride? Shamsil ordered, holding her hands up to him. Naruto was confused. You can fly, he said. If that wasn't the obvious thing in the world. Shamsil glared at him, poking his. You dummy, she grumbled. You told me that you didn't want me to use my wings. Aren't you my boyfriend? And a boyfriend is supposed to help his girlfriend in distress. She gave him a cute pout, her brown demonic ember eyes looking directly at his ocean blue eyes. Naruto's cheeks blushed a red hue as her was touching his body. She crossed her arms and still looked at him. You know what, he didn't care. She was the first girl that ever gave him the time of day. Even though she was a soul ing succubus, Naruto just wanted to spend time with Shamsil and really get to know why she was here in the first place and enjoy whatever it was she had planned. He took her hand and clasped them together. Showing a loving smile, he had her hand ly. Shamsil bit her lip. He then lifted his head and then touched her cheek, closing in for a. Shamsil blushed profusely and ed him back. She had always thought of men as her food, but this one was different. She was doing her best not to melt into a puddle. They could feel the heat radiating off both of their faces. His hands then traveled down to her waist and then slithered down her well-toned but bing it, causing her to. He was definitely loving every moment of this. They both did their ass from one another and stared at each other's eyes. They liked what they both saw. How silly of me, Naruto whispered, speaking up first, smirking. Shamsil's cheeks turned into a permanent pink. Come on, hop on my back. The others will really start to wonder where I am if we don't hurry. Shamsil nodded dumbfoundedly as she put on the sound ninja headband. She got on his back, to make sure she doesn't slip if that's even likely. Shikamaru and Chuji, who were bored and sitting down thinking about what to do after completing their mission, saw someone familiar. Isn't that Naruto? We haven't seen him in ages, Chuji said. Shikamaru's eyes darted towards him, but he noticed someone on his back. Who is that? He asked. Chuji shrugged. Beats me. I'm just starving, man. Perhaps it's someone that he rescued. Understandable, Shikamaru whispered. This might be something new. After going to Tsunade and explaining the situation that Shamsil was in an abusive relationship with her father which caused her to run as far away from her environment as possible. In other times like this, Tsunade would usually never ever aid an enemy village like the sound, but from all looks of it, she was an abused woman. She saw marks and cuts her body, completely ignoring the fact that it was self-inflicted by purpose due to Shamsil's magic. She gave a nod and approved the plan to shelter her in Konoha. All right, she can stay. In the meantime, she will have to be with you for safety since our visitor feels more comfortable as she only knows you. In the meantime, why don't you show her around and get used to the village? Tsunade ordered. Naruto could feel his member harden. A succubus in his apartment. How convenient. Shamsil's senses were tingling, and caught a peek of his bulge, smirking evilly. She laughed her mind. He didn't expect them to actually be living together. They walked out of her office with Shamsil clinging onto his arm. Naruto, I'm tired. Can we go to your apartment? She whined. But I really want to show you around. He told her back. Shamsil pouted and leaned into his ear. His skin hair was raising up when she was closing in on him. I'm very hungry, and I need to tell you a few things about me, she said. She then him into an alley to further convince him, planting him many bing his hands, and letting him touch her Naruto drooled. He would be stupid not to listen to her. He bet her hand and dashed towards his apartment as fast as he could. He opened the door to his apartment, revealing a small kitchen with one king-sized. Naruto, as he got older, took better care to keep everything in order, making his bed occasionally and not leaving old ramen noodle cups out causing mold. Shamsil inspected everywhere as her eyes glittered. What a neat place, a lot smaller than my room. But neat nonetheless. She gave him a wink and a thumbs up. So what did you want to about your origin? What realm are you from? Naruto curiously asked. Shamsil smiled. I would be delighted to tell you. In fact, that's why I wanted to talk here. She grinned. She floated to his bed and turned into her original form with her red tail and wings from her civilian clothing. Every time Naruto saw her wearing that, he gulped. She was a UAL goddess that wanted his. She giggled and fluttered and tapped her hands on his bed. Era, come on Naruto-kun, I want bite you. I want to tell you more about me. Shamisen stated. Naruto obliged, and walked towards the bed. He was trying his best to hide his shaft. She shook her head and let her tail wree his hands away from his groin area. He should be more honest with himself. I come from a demon world named the Sanctum cuz I have a mom and several thousand sisters, she stated in an obvious tone. Naruto's jaw dropped, and Shamsil laughed at his reaction. Yeah, it's a lot to take in. My mom's name is Mephisayura Shihar. She's the queen of the succubus. My sister's name, who's the most important to me, is Virika Mia Shihar. We're technically the first two that were born to her, so that's why we're so important. She puffed up her. Naruto nodded, trying to follow everything that she was saying. So, basically the goal of every succubus is to and drink in order to stay alive and have a harem. And I tried to do the latter, but I didn't much enjoy having with other demons such as orcs and goblins. They were all really rough. I and my mom and sister had a fallout. We're on speaking terms. But to me, I want to make love passionately. I want more than food, I wanted a mate. So I haven't been satisfied to an extent, but that's when I hear on Earth, human males come faster than demons, but I accidentally kill them and they are sent to heaven. When I found you, there was something different about you. You want to become Hokage and have dreams and ambitions, and you're very sweet. I'm sorry about your childhood and what you went through. I want to take care of all your needs. I'm really the only one for you. She then stood up in front of him and snapped her, making her blue one piece disappear, revealing her body. Naruto gulped. Shamsil had a smug look on her face, and she then placed her hand on the center of Naruto's stomach. You have nice abs, she complimented. He blushed, her and tail tracing around his abs, and bing circles between them. Her tail grew purple and tapped his shinobi orange jack and black S, and made his clothes disappear too. Naruto, I'm very sorry that I wanted you to death. I am a succubus. It's my nature, but you really have a high count. Her legs to quiver as. I know it's not your fault. I'm actually quite turned on by it. It's nice to have someone appreciate you. We both off on each other, and we both have needs. I love you, Shamsil, he whispered. He then bed her white tail into it. He watched as her whole demeanor changed from one of nervousness to having heart-shaped pupils in her eyes. She was being turned on in every. Before he can say anything, she then gave him a grate with her tail, jing them both. She squealed. She then tackled him on his bed and proceeded to plant a million ES on him, causing Naruto to laugh as she did. The succubus was now on top, her tail wiggling on his face, trying to open his. Naruto obliged and opened his to her tail. For him, Her tail was slimy but felt good too, her ETS like her wings which was so unique about her. Shamsil understood this and loved that. The more he kept playing with her tail but more hardened it be. After a few minutes he spat it back out. Shamsil's eyes narrowed seductively. I only want 3 meals from you, Naruto. You can have with me how you want, whenever you want. She then lowered her face to his member, and at his which was oozing in. Do you want me to start here? Your body is totally honest with being attracted to me, Shamsil whispered. Her was face up and her entire face was on his groin area, the aroma and respecting its length. Naruto grinned. He was no longer some dense nobody who people thought. Shamsil really unlocked his perviness. Jiraiya would have been proud of them. Naruto in a flash flipped them over so he was on top. Shamsil-chan, I need to thank you for taking my V-card and telling me about your species and your true nature, he said. His hands were menacing as he twitched them all around. His whole body was ready to ravage hers. Shamsil blushed a crimson. She made sure to soundproof the entire room as she wanted to as loud as possible so she can enjoy. He then lowered his head both her S in the process and going straight for and bing. Shamsil ed, she was blushing like mad, that she made Naruto's twitch. Shamsil blushed and looked off to the side. Just to let you know, but I'm pretty sure it was obvious, Shamsil ly spoke, and Naruto ed his. So cute was all he can say, then ed her S and went back to her S again. He probably thought they were gur than AD cup. He then proceeded to guide his. What are you waiting for, superior? Shamsil shrieked in delight. Oh yes, Naruto-kun, rearrange my. Don't hold back, your your girlfriend's so hard. Naruto laughed at this. He never felt such power over someone before if it wasn't battling or since facing Kiba at the Chunin exams. He then lowered his head into and both of her his as he did so. Yes. She ed out. Naruto used his to her cheeks as if she was some sort of desert. She was a desert, and he was treating himself to her with every second ping. This is incredible. My body belongs to you, Naruto. That's it, I will serve my life for you, Naruto. I'll do anything for you. She took convulse. After 15 minutes, Naruto grunted loudly. He bed her S and howled in. Shamsil was amazed at Naruto. She had a stupid, and was impressed. Naruto then turned her around so she could face his. He was definitely dominating her. It's Shamsil. I need to feed you, he commanded quietly. His still up slightly and twilight. Shamsil obeyed his master's instructions and proceeded to engulf. She sighed in content happily. Naruto smiled happily, enjoying the compliment. After a small cooldown they stayed the apartment talking to each other, enjoying each other's company and warmth. Naruto was a little worried about her translating her skills into Konoha, but Shamsil told him not to worry. Being a sound ninja and having the power of invisibility and mind control, she could probably mesh her way into becoming an expert. Naruto nodded and gave her a peck on the cheek. Shamsil then forgot about something very important that she needed to tell him. Naruto, there's a certain ritual that we have to do to make our relationship official, she stated, twiddling her together. Her cheeks were rising red again, embarrassed about the request she was going to happen. What type of ritual? Naruto asked, blinking both his eyes twice. He then was handcuffed and blindfolded. Naruto stood up high. His was madly twitching after some magic handiwork by Shamsil's tail. Shamsil-chan, what's going on? He said, having a mixture of fear and exploitation showered his emotions. Shamsil looked at him calmly. This is an ancient succubus tradition, that's kind of rare. It's kind of an attraction thing. The ritual states that in order for a succubus and mate to continue on in their relationship, a succubus must ahead of on her lover 10 times. If the ritual P.S. You'll spill tons of and I have to put it in a cursed pink GL so I can drink it. If the ritual fails, you might turn into dust. Shamsil winced at that last part. Naruto felt his heart hitch. Oh. Naruto nervously said, his ing up and down, not sure whether to be turned on or shrivel. Shamsil calmed him down by ing him. It's okay. I'm here. Shamsil reared, and Naruto gulped. You better hope you know what you're doing, he said in a frightened but serious tone. Don't worry, now we have to be quiet, Shamsil ordered. She then sighed and ed the entirety of her right hand's palm, and bed onto his by the base, causing Naruto to grunt ly. He felt the extra moisture. Shamsil pursed and towards his head. 1, 2, 3, 4. Naruto then felt something glow. Shamsil smirked. His head turned into a pink light. 5, 6, 7. Naruto didn't care about dying. At this moment, he was turned on to the fullest. Who knew Succubus had such a tradition? her were sew the head carefully as possible. Naruto leaned slightly forward, trying to enjoy every second. 8. 9. Shamsil detoured his, pecking it one last time. 10. Naruto's teeth grunted. All of a sudden hot rope of to travel down all the way to the that was on the ground. His was being extracted of its gooey goodness. He felt like a clown was pulling those handkerchiefs out of his, but in this case, it was a goofy succubus, taking ropes and ropes of his out of him. After the cup was filled, there was not a single drop of it on the floor. Shamsil blushed and smiled. He then took the cup and placed it on her, and she drank the entire of his essence, downing it without getting it on her body to be safe. She didn't know how he was able to survive all of this. Amazing, so his is the best. Shamsil led her. Naruto collapsed on the bed as Shamsil rushed to read the handcuffs and the blindfolds. Sorry, again Naruto-kun, she bent the back of her head, showing a toothy grin that can rival his. Naruto's felt stars all around his head. Shamsil sat down beside him completely, letting his head rest between hers. She bent his head gently. It was only fair to let him rest. She then bent his hand and placed it on her stomach, blushing. Maybe someday, she whispered his cheek. She continued to his blonde hair as he drifted to sleep. He couldn't his legs after that ordeal. Naruto woke up with a sigh, feeling a delightful warm sensation on his and an end of strawberries. His eyes fluttered open and were met with brown ember demonic eyes staring at him. Shamsil's body was on top of his member, grinding him ly. She had a heartfelt smile. The two made eye contact, and she started to grind him again, as her glided past his. The two were enjoying themselves so much that neither of them could stop. Naruto bent her hair, pulling on it lightly, earning an excited from the demoness. She away, smirking down at him. Ohio Naruto-kun, hope you liked my little wake-up call. Shamsil smiled at him. I loved your morning greeting. I just wish you hadn't woken me up. Naruto chuckled. Shamsil blushed as her tail glazed his blonde hair. Sorry about that. She reached down and ed her, grinding him ly again, which elicited s from him. Hey, you know that ritual we did yesterday in the afternoon? You know the one where you just collapsed as I extracted you for me to drink? The demoness stated as a matter of fact. Yeah, I remember that. What's the deal? Naruto questioned. Shamsil giggled and then lowered her body to his groin area. She then unsheathed the sheets. Naruto noticed something different. He noticed a symbol on the top of his tada. When we did that erotic ritual yesterday, my marking on the bottom left side of my eye is also marked on the top of your member, meaning that you survived. She closed her eyes and gave him a wholesome smile. The symbol was like two opposite quotation marks with one a little higher than the other. What does this mean? Naruto asked, still looking at the marking. It means you survived the ritual, and that we're officially a couple. Not many human men survive that. It's only once in millennia. So consider yourself lucky. Shamsil said, still smiling. Looks like she's marked her territory. Naruto couldn't help but blush slightly and nodded. He didn't think that his relationship with Shamsil could get any more intimate than it already was, and it was now for a few days. She read the cover completely, revealing herself fully to her lover. Naruto's flung open and at her, twitching. Shamsil ed as her watered, his enormous head pre-ping on the side. She leaned down and ed his member, and looked up at him. Naruto bit his lip. His mind was too far gone with and wanted her to continue. You know, Naruto, we have a lot of things to do today. Tsunade needs to transition me to a kunoichi, and you still haven't shown me around Konoha. She teasingly pouted. Naruto tried to frown but couldn't. I wanted to do this all before, but you told me why you wanted me to understand Succubus and you as a person. He had out. His was wiggling and moving around in front of her face. Excuses, bad. Naruto. Shamsil giggled. His again. As a punishment, you get to ensure this. It's a shame I haven't done this. Shamsil grinned mischievously. She then lifted the top red shirt she used as pajamas, which revealed her S. It was then that she wrapped her enormous revealed S around his, the pink-haired enormous succubus, moving them up and down, covering the long, thick, and veinous surface of his manhood. Oh, I'm so happy to give your first. Shame on me for not doing this before to you. Shamsil flashed her hangs at him, turning Naruto on. Even more, she needed all that she can get from him for today. She kept up a steady rhythm, herself up on him as he continued to rock back and forth. She then took control of her hips and upward. Naruto gasped and loud at her entrance, her hand lower and him while continuing to her, his tie-in growing and stretching under her my vest. She then to his. Shamsil he had out, staring at her with a expression. Shamsil her tail then stretched towards his hand and gave him to Pointy Tip to play with. You love my tail, don't you, you pervert? She looked up at him. Her were caked with his pre. She to him again while using her S to his up and down. Do you want to me? She asked and pressed her S together stronger. Naruto answered by ing and simply ming her face and S. He let out a loud groan and ate her tail, causing her to wince. She ate his while her face was still gagging on his. He ate out, his still spitting out amounts of for Shamsil to eat, she to all of the she had on her body, and ing his altogether. She stood up with a wide grin immediately. Ah, so full of life, yours truly the best, Naruto-kun, Shamsil complimented, their eyes both looking. Hee, I'm glad you appreciate it, Shamsil-chan. They both stood up and went to the shower. Naruto was washing her hair behind her, ing her neck, and playing with her S, which made her shudder. She turned around and ate his shoulder, then ing his neck, making sure to leave some ES on his skin. He stopped washing her hair and turned his head to her, giving her a quick peck on her lip, S, and went back to cleaning her hair. They got out of the shower and dressed quickly. They walked outside and went to Tsunade's office. They entered her office and sat down in front of her desk. She was reading over some documents. She put them aside and looked at the two. Good morning, Naruto, Shamsil. She greeted the pair. Both replied with good morning and bowed. Shamsil, are you alright? She nodded. I'm fine. Naruto has been taking good care of me. I'm in a much better place now. Shamsil blushed, then looked at Naruto. He bent the back of his head. She had no idea that they had done other activities with each other, but considering that Naruto was her protector, she just thought they was friends. Tsunade supported them staying together because she had always noticed that Naruto was very lonely, so maybe Shamsil could provide some friendship. After a conversation with Shamsil about being a kunoichi, she deemed it appropriate not to test for anything, since she was already a sound ninja. Tsunade gave her the leaf hand and, protect it with your life. She looked at Shamsil, she smiled, and while also giving her the traditional Konoha Chunin vest, black OTK socks, and a Konoha bandana, Shamsil's eyes twinkled. No problem, Bachan, Shamsil giggled, and took the headband and the gear. Tsunade's grace towards Shamsil disappeared upon hearing those words. Did you teach her to call me that? Tsunade glared at Naruto. His face was white as snow. Nay, I didn't, but I guess she might have figured it out on her own? He stuttered nervously. It was an answer that didn't sit well with Tsunade. Shamsil just laughed. Tsunade then got up and punched Naruto. Don't encourage her to be disrespectful to me like that, she scolded. Naruto flinched and held his stomach. Wincing on the floor, Shamsil looked at Naruto. Naruto just can't catch a break, huh? She mumbled under her breath, looked at Tsunade, and bowed politely. Sorry, Hokage-sama. She spoke up. She knew she couldn't do anything to Tsunade since she was Hokage, and she might find out about her true nature of being a succubus, so she had to play along. That's quite alright, Tsunade answered. If you're fine with it, Shamsil, go prepare for your training, she said, and Naruto, go to the training ground immediately. Sasuke and Kakashi won't be there though, as they are both going to be in the Land of Iron for a few months. What? Naruto stated that he was shocked and looked at Tsunade. And you're telling me this now? Sorry, Naruto, it was kind of late news. She chuckled, and Naruto sighed. That's why I didn't see them for the past few days, he thought. Anyway, I want you to report to the training ground and take Shamsil with you. Sakura and your new sensei Anko will be there for the time being. Anko? Naruto gasped. They both knew each other, but there was always an indifference. Naruto always wanted to talk with her but never really got the chance. Anko. Shamsil grinned. Her eyes, she remembered seeing her when she was spying on Naruto. She had black-blue tinted hair that was spiky and had a ponytail and custom-made outfit that was a thin metal mesh highlighting her C-cup S. Shamsil's cheeks turned pink. The succubus wanted to pounce on her, but it would compromise her mission with Naruto. She was going to be training them? Shamsil led her. This was going to be one hell of an experience for them. This was not what she expected to happen in such a short amount of time. She's a prodigy at kunoichi combat. You'll work hard. You will become stronger for the sake of this village, Tsunade said. We shall continue our session later, Shamsil. Now go train. They both nodded, and Shamsil clung to Naruto's arm. She had hit the jackpot. Naruto and Shamsil were walking hand in hand, with Shamsil laying her head on Naruto's shoulder, her eyes closed taking in his scent. After finally becoming a kunoichi by devious means, she finally felt secure, with the man that she loved, but she also thought about certain eye candy. Hey Naruto, are you interested in a threesome with me and Anko? She asked, biting her lip and blushing. Naruto quickly turned to face her. She was smiling dumbfoundedly. Well, I don't know about that, Shamsil, he said, turning away from her. She took his hand, turning to look at him again. Why not? She asked. She didn't care anymore. It was just an innocent question. She wanted to know how he'd react. She's a powerful kunoichi. I know you find her attractive. Succubus can tell just by looking at men's thoughts. She whispered the last part, and you read off to her more than once. Her tail appeared out of nowhere. Only she and Naruto can see it due to a spell that she placed. Her tail was tickling his S. These babies have seen a lot of activity during the past few days, she quietly said. Two don't think I could, you know. Shamsil looked down and sighed ly, closing her eyes for a second. Her tail disappeared back into her body. You're two. Naruto was confused. What does that mean? She's really angry. I'm a succubus. It's in my nature to eat men and women. We don't need to have permission to have with anyone. That goes against our nature. And I'm confused by your personality. Sometimes you want to just ravage me and my brains out. She gestured. And then sometimes you crawl back into your shell and act like such an innocent angel who doesn't overed succubus like me. Shamsil puffed out her cheeks at him. She then leaned close to his right cheek. But we all know that's not true, she whispered, making his skin crawl. I know that you want us to till there's no tomorrow. He looked at her. She looked beautiful with her short pink silky hair and amber eyes that looked so innocent yet evil. He growled and then bent her hand and led her to an alleyway where they wouldn't be seen. He had her hard and pushed her against the wall. They were both ing heavily as Naruto D on top of her. He to trail es along her neck, stopping at her jawline when suddenly she started to laugh hysterically. You're such a pervert. She ate in his ear and pushed him away. Naruto stared ly into her eyes. Ironic given that she a UAL demon. Shut up, you know I love you, Shamsil-chan, and I don't. It's just that you might be the death of me, he said, motorboating her s that were from the outer layer of her kunoichi vest, causing her to giggle. I think I'll enjoy killing you. Then again, I'd rather kill you than any other man, she replied with her moving to his neck and ing on the spot. Naruto groaned loudly and put a hand on her lower back, trying to push her off. Shamsil, we have to go. Naruto then ed her in protest. You know you changed the subject again. We're supposed to be going to the training grounds, and you wanted us to get Anko for a threesome, he said, staring at her. She nodded. Oh yeah, she said sarcastically. We'll go now, let's go. She hopped up and him out of the alleyway. It was 1 p.m. Naruto and Shamsil and they finally made their way to the training grounds to meet Anko and Sakura. When they finally arrived they were busy sparring. Shamsil looked over at Anko. She was in awe of her when she got a closer look at the snake mistress, who was considered one of the most beautiful mistresses in all of Konoha. Her purple hair matched with her brown hair turned on Shamsil. She bit her as her cheeks turned red. Damn, the woman in this village is really cute. More than in any other one, she's almost wearing see-through fishnets, Shamsil thought. The succubus continued to eye her, thinking of continuing much fun they will have tonight until Naruto broke her train of thought when he announced their arrival. Konnichiwa Anko-sensei. Naruto waved at her. Anko was busily sparring with Sakura, immediately turning her head upon hearing her name. Hey there Naruto, Anko wholesomely said. Hey, Sakura, Naruto said, a little disheveled. Sakura rolled her eyes but saved face because she was having a good sparring match with Anko, and she didn't want to lose her way. Hey Naruto, she said, faking a smile towards him. She never really liked Naruto. To her he was still a kid who always tried his best to annoy everyone, and it didn't off on her very well. Anko and Sakura looked at Naruto's mysterious companion who accompanied him to their training grounds. Shamsil pouted and nudged Naruto, waiting for an introduction. Oh guys, this is Shamsil-chan. She's from the Sound Village. I saw her in a forest crying, and she said she was running away from her abusive father. Isn't that right, Shamsil-chan? Naruto asked the hidden succubus. That's right, Shamsil smiled. Ever since Naruto took me in, I've never felt so happy. He's my knight in shining armor. Shamsil then did something bold in front of everyone. She clung on to Naruto's arm and gave him a quick peck on his cheeks, and Anko and Sakura froze. Oh, Myth's so cute, Anko commented, trying her best not to sound awkward. Well, welcome to Konoha, Shamsil. Tsunade did mention we had a new student, and that's really affectionate, Anko said, blinking her eyes, still shocked about the little. Naruto stood there looking at Shamsil. Were they going to keep their relationship a secret? They never really discussed that. Sakura had an annoyed look. Who was this girl? Why was she so clingy to Naruto, a perceived outcast? Hi, I'm Sakura Haruna, nice to meet you, she said, trying to plaster a smile despite her recent events. Naruto turned his head to see Shamsiel. He was praying to Kami this would go over well. Despite not trying to like Sakura because he was already with Shamsiel, he would hope they would be at least cordial with each other. Shamsiel then looked at her. Hi Sakura, I'm glad to be here, though your forehead is pretty and scary. We're going to be amazing teammates. She grinned, giving 2 thumbs up. Sakura's body turned into a white husk. Naruto couldn't help but chuckle. Cha! Did you tell her that, Naruto? She growled at him, cracking her knuckles. Not this again. Naruto thought he was already beaten by Tsunade due to Shamsiel's remarks. And no, I swear, Naruto stated, trying to calm her down. Enko had to intervene before Sakura was going to send him to a hospital or 10 feet under. Alright, enough standing around, Shamsiel, since you're new here. We're going to be old school, Enko stated, easing everyone's tensions. Oh, what's the challenge? I'm sure I can handle it. Shamsiel puffed out her, smiling in a why manner. She read herself from Naruto and walked toward Enko. Naruto and Sakura stood by the side. He was wincing due to the punch Sakura gave him on the shoulder, needing some band-aids to cover his wounds. They were watching Shamsiel and Enko on the field looking directly at each other. Enko took 2 bells from her shirt pocket and them out in front of Shamsiel. I'm gonna be testing you for your agility, so we're going to do something simple to get you warmed up. In order to pee this test, you have to these 2 bells from me. Heh, that sounds simple enough. Shamsiel ran towards Enko, trying to get the 2 objects from them. Enko simply dodged and quickly swung her hand that held the bells away from Shamsiel. They circled each other, either willing to give ground. Shamsiel charged for Enko, but she jumped into the air. She kicked her leg high and landed a powerful kick on the left of Shamsiel's jaw, sending her flying backward. Shamsiel was completely dazed and fell back to the ground. Shamsiel! Naruto winced. He then ran towards her, trying to get her back up. Are you okay? He asked, caressing her cheeks. Shamsiel blushed and looked up to him. I'm okay, sorry, and Naruto. I promise to be strong for you guys, especially you, she whispered, and he then lifted her up. Sakura saw this and to frown. Quit trying to seduce her, you loser, she thought. Now no coaching-y. The snake mistress said, oh, and a reminder, it's 1 p.m. now. You have about an hour to get these bells from my hand. 55 minutes later, Shamsiel, despite being an arch-succubus from another realm, and could easily turn men into husks and ash, was at her wits' end. She tried everything to get the bells from Enko, jumping towards her, using her kunai, and even punching and kicking her repeatedly, but Enko was just out of the way, dodging each of her attacks. But in the end, she was able to one of the bells from Enko's hands. After a few minutes of struggle, Shamsiel threw a punch at her, which made her lose her balance. She then thought of something she hadn't done before. She could turn invisible. She then made a series of hand jutsus. Inviba Sakaba no Jutsu, she stealthily said. All of a sudden she disappeared. Enko's eyes widened, and Sakura's jaw dropped. She could have done that before, she grumbled. Hey, yeah? I forgot she told me. Naruto chuckled awkwardly. When no one could see her, she then used her tail and bed the last bell. Enko didn't feel anything unusual, but it didn't feel like a hand touched her. Yoink! She took the bell. Enko was shocked. I guess you won, Enko stated. Something about that bed her the wrong way, but she just sighed and ignored it. Naruto running towards Shamsiel. That was amazing, Shamsiel-chan. I'm so proud of you. Naruto then jumped on Shamsiel, wrapping his arms around her. Shamsiel's heart was beating loudly in her. The succubus joyfully laughed his warm touch. Her cheeks flared up with a mild blush. Shamsiel could not wipe the sarcastic smile from her as Naruto's arms continued to eat her, nuzzling the back of her neck. Sakura's jaw dropped. That was a little too much for her. What was going on between them? Unbelievable, Mephasayura Shihar said, lowering her eyes. She was looking at an orb that was showing Naruto and her semi-estranged daughter Shamsiel, holding hands and one another. How did a human survive UAL with a succubus? She stated. She then looked at the montages of their relationship. She saw how many times Naruto would Shamsiel without being killed and shriveled to dust. His was just too potent, and Shamsiel was obviously obsessed, almost drunk off his. Naruto would and fondle her, and then she in return would his so many times while laying him down on there, taking his as it tickles her cursed, and in many instances Naruto would just pull out and the succubus with his, giving her a meal. He would always caress her after their ing her forehead and praising her for everything, being grateful that she into his life and showing affection. He didn't care that she was a succubus, in fact it turned him on even more. She was more than happy to start her life in Konoha living with Naruto. Mephisa blushed, her legs were tingling. The fact that Naruto Uzumaki was able to exercise her daughter like no other man was telling. Imagine what would happen if he met a woman like her. Imagine if his thing was in between her. She opened her eyes and realized her thoughts. She slammed her fist down on her royal chair and edged. She was jealous. Not only had a human shinobi survived a succubus, but he was courting and admiring her. Shamsiel had mated with Naruto enough times to make them official by ing his member and placing a symbol on the top of his groin area, symbolizing their relationship. All of a sudden a female demon flew into the room. "Mama, what's wrong?" In Farika Mia Shahar asking the question, the sister of Shamsiel, an arch-succubus who was renowned for her appeal even for a succubus, she always finished off her harem with tremendous speed, and unlike Shamsiel, she loved having a harem and wasn't picky on the species. To them they were just her utility foods, nothing more, nothing and nothing less. She was beautiful and elegant. She had long red hair, red skin, purple eyes, and pink. Her eyes were bright. She often wore leather boots with leather black eyes combined with her leather jacket, which didn't even cover her S entirely, rather puffing them out. "Take a look at what your sister has been. She's been with this young man named Naruto for several days, and he hasn't died from with her." Mephisa pointed at the orb, and it showed a montage of their relationship. Farika heart hitched. He was her greedy body, taking every bit of it. He had also everywhere, every time, on her S, face, stomach, S, bat wings and tail. "Whoa, he's amazing. Imagine what he would do when he would see us. He's really cute too." Shamsiel lucked out. "But how?" "I don't know, and look, she even marked him with the symbol on her left eye. Does she want to marry him or something?" Succubus have rarely ever married their foods before, but it looks like Shamsiel doesn't see him as food. "I wanna him," Farika said calmly. "Imagine what a healthy human like that would do to me." She blushed, she then to herself furiously. Mephisa glanced at her daughter. It couldn't be helped, considering her and several thousand succubuses were a band of crazed demonesses, to begin with. Mephisa's brain then hatched an idea. "Why don't you go to this Konoha and at the right time, you kidnap Naruto and bring him to me, so we can properly introduce ourselves. Then leave some essence on a portal or something. It's about time we had a family reunion with Shamsiel." She added, and at that moment, heard to everywhere, some even landing on Mephisa's. The leader of the succubus chuckled and had some of her daughter's E on her upper lip. Furka sighed pioneerly, her cheeks rising with red crimson as she nodded. "Yes, my queen," she quietly stated and disappeared out of sight. 9 p.m. After training, Naruto walked around his bedroom. He was in his orange boxers, and Shamsiel promised to bring Anko through a portal so they could have a. Ever since Shamsiel saw Anko while she was spying on Naruto, she was always a target to the snake mistress, and now she had an opportunity to both of them. All of a sudden a pink circle appeared out of his room which revealed Shamsiel and Anko. "Tada! I told you I would bring her." Shamsiel smiled. She was going to enjoy the event that was going to take place. Woe his on the outside of the on of his boxers. They were both wearing see-through nighties. "See, your body is honest," Shamsiel said. Naruto stared at both of them. They were wearing see-through nighties. Anko's was purple with black, while Shamsiel's. Anko's face was completely blank and void of emotion. Does she know what's going on? It seems like her mind is somewhere else?" Naruto asked. "I used some mind control to subdue her. She didn't know because I did it behind her back while she was done taking a shower. Her mind was completely obedient to our will." Wow. That was all Naruto can say. "Anyways, let's have fun. We didn't just want to ogle each other all night." She then Anko who landed in Naruto's arms. They both looked at each other. Naruto had to admit, this was pretty amazing. "And Naruto, let's enjoy ourselves tonight with Shamsiel, any?" She then pushed him on the bed and read his boxers, ing on his. Naruto's back was totally on the bed, ing as his was ing into her. Shamsiel blushed watching all of this unfold. "I also got this," she whispered. Naruto then whispered that Shamsiel was now wearing a pink strap-on. She got on the bed and positioned her fake into. Naruto smiled and nodded. Shamsiel deserved to have fun too. She then the Anko, who ed while Naruto's he then to get, he bed her head and pushed her, wanting her to make of his with her. Such a naughty greedy human. "I'm really having to share with you, aren't I?" Shamsiel stated. She was banging Anko's cheeks. Naruto stuck his out playfully at Shamsil, who did the same. Naruto and Shamsil, after several hours of having with Anko, were reaching. What a succubus! I wonder how many times you've had before. Naruto ed, and they both collapsed beside each other with Anko in the middle, several thousands of times. But I'm still as you know. She grinned, blushing. Naruto had a goofy smile. Succubus was also immune from having any UL diseases. He had an amazing life with Shamsil, from introducing her to Konoha and giving her a tour, to her punching Sakura for punching Naruto. It felt like this was all a dream to him, but it was really real. You're the best, Shamsil-chan. I'm going to you with lots of. I don't even know how I'm living, but I guess I'm just that special. He then towards her, he teased, such a healthy. She whispered in delight. Give me your tail, Naruto ordered. She nodded and her tail slithered out and he wrapped his with it. Giving her a he off his with her tail, as it was getting, Naruto tensed and then ed on her tail and bat wings. So Naruto truly has a fetish for my tail. She teased. Naruto nodded evilly and just ed both her s. She couldn't get enough of the pink-haired succubus. He wanted to be in this position forever. A little awkward for Anko, who was sprawled out on the bed, pet out from all the she endured in a mind-controlled state. Shamsil ed out as Naruto ed her s. Naruto-kun, you're going to drive me to insanity with your body ravaging mine, Shamsil stated, ing as was being caressed and by this human UL demigod. Isn't that the point? I want to. Let's go for another round. You're still hungry, Naruto declared, jumping on Shamsil. As a succubus, this was pretty degrading even for their standards, but she didn't care about anything at that moment. Naruto ed her into again. Her were muffled by the hell out of each other. 1 a.m. Shamsil's whole body was matted with dry. She teleported Anko to her own bed before sleeping with Naruto. Their bodies were disorganized on the bed as they were in a state of slumber, when all of a sudden a red demonic teleportation circle into their room. Furika gently made her teleportation circle go away quickly. The room's aroma was kavura and they had just finished a wild night. She walked gingerly to the bedside and saw Naruto, eyes wide shut. We finally caught you, Furika grinned evilly, her eyes looking directly at his, which was probably worn out due to all the he and Shamsil were having. She then made a sound barrier to engulf Shamsil's body so she won't hear. Darkness, just a void of darkness. He couldn't see anything. There was no light, not even a flash of glimmer near him. He was chained on a squish bed. At least it wasn't something harder on the surface. But that still doesn't excuse what happened to him. Naruto was trying to remember the previous events. He and E was Shamsil, his succubus girlfriend, and Anko. Remembering that she begged him for a threesome with her eyes glanced at her. His body was entirely from top to bottom. As Shamsil, he mumbled, This isn't funny. E, let me loose. I am sorry. Naruto sat there chained and bound as he had for what he thought was several hours. He woke up in a dazed, confused state. The only things that helped him were the memories he was trying to soak up. Did Shamsil cause this? Was this all a trap? Was she truly planning on killing him or something? Shamsil, let me go. Hey, you really do think about her all the time, a voice called out. Opening the door, Naruto's ears perked up. Shamsil-chan? Wrong. She then crawled over to him. Naruto could feel the bed moving around. He was nervously shaking even though he was bound. A slender arm suddenly bent his member. Ing-him-ly. She then read the blindfold from his face, and Naruto almost flinched in surprise. Red lush hair and a tail similar to Shamsil's but only black. Her filled his nostrils, turning him on even more. She crawled on his body until they were face to face. Who are you? He didn't even get the chance to understand who or what she was. Only her pressing onto his. She leaned down lower, bing her S on his. Their S were rolling around and playing with each other. His members stood tall and hard. After their S let go of each other for some air, she smiled. My name is Furika Mia Shahar, the sister of Shamsil. You know the succubus you were, ing? Naruto's eyes lit up. They were pretty similar, to the red hair and the similar skin tones. Why you doing this to me? Where am I? She smiled and to grind on his, eliciting S from him. Since you ask so nicely, I will explain. My mom rules Sanctum Cuz and is in charge of the ST mystical industry in the universe. We're demons who love to have with a harem of orcs, goblins, and elves. Shamsil didn't like this, so she bolted off. She stated, her tail bing his ball sacks. Yeah, she told me all about this. She told me that you guys had a fallout. That's right, but my mom showed me an orb of montages between you and her, the end lovemaking. She sighed, her cheeks turned red. And then I got jealous. How can she find a human like this who didn't even die from ULE with a succubus? This thing between your legs is pretty special. Farika then towards his, and added 3 times, making him shiver. Even though she marked you, she can't keep you all to herself. I want to have with you also. Succubus have no shame on how we have. It's just that we devour, that's it. Naruto tried to frown. I love Shamsiel, you're not her, you'll never be her. Naruto growled. He was turned on, but he didn't like getting kidnapped and bound like this. Yours says different, Farika chided, glancing downward. Be warned, I'm a lot stronger Yuli than Sham, so you might wither and die. And this is my first human before, it's a lot different looking. Farika smiled, smirking her way through this. She didn't care if this was a one-time thing, she needed to have with this shinobi. Instinctively he tried to, only to be held down by the chains. The perfect sound barrier was placed her room, which was converted to a dungeon for this occasion. Shit, I might actually die, and Shamsiel is still sleeping in my room. Crap, she's even 1,000 times than Shamsiel. What did I get myself into? Don't feel too bad, you're amazing, you survived many S with my sister, but I think this might be the end of your story, human. Farika stood up and then off her leather and tossed them on his face. Naruto could her aroma. She then lowered her body towards his, and as soon as she down on his member, she said, how are you liking my, it's then my sister's huh? She asked, blushing slightly at her question. Naruto just sighed, he couldn't. Wow, you're just the of my, it expended, that amazing. Here's a treat for your amazing job so far. She then read her small tiny jacket that did an awful job covering her S and leaned downward towards Naruto. It's making me shiver, she said as the suction made her S harden. Era, don't think I'm going to be on you because you're me. Farika then sped up her speed with his, going up and down as quickly as possible. Naruto could feel everything that she was giving him. His member was her cursed. Oh, are you going to and die me? Me and then die, your body can't handle me. And then die. She said. Naruto's teeth clenched fiercely. He didn't want to die like this, but he still had a lot to live for. It's now or never. He closed his eyes, but as he was about to come, he felt a surge of energy. His chakra was coming out of his body. All of a sudden he broke the chains and then was on top of Farika. Impossible! She addition. How did you manage to break free? Humans shouldn't be that strong. I'm gonna be the future Hokage someday. Thanks for still motivating me. He then smirked evilly. Farika gasped and tried to run away, but Naruto bent her right leg and dragged her closer to him. I'm gonna have my revenge for you taking me away from Shamsiel. You're probably not gonna walk for a few days. His jumped happily at the vulnerable sight of the sadistic arch-succubus. Farika said. She then realized there was no choice and just surrendered. I deserve this, you use me as you like, she stated ly, looking up at this human UL demigod in front of her. He smirked. He then proceeded to jump on her senseless. They were left to hell out of each other. Naruto shoved his Farika again, causing her to vengeance on you. You're going to enjoy your. Farika was close in E. Naruto was ing and ing her face. She had lewdly and bet her S. ing her brains out. Naruto then D his bloating. She gulped and nodded, even though she was sued too. This was a bit different. He then speared her, causing her to L. Naruto grinned, as he was ing her for many minutes. Take my Farika-sama. Naruto groaned as he felt like the top of his was going to explode of her. Within seconds, ropes of her red hair, her leather boots. He then turned around and ate her S stomach and tail. Farika's was wide open. Her face was covered. Shamsiel was lying down on the bed sleeping. She was tossing and turning until she felt like something was out. There was no blonde shinobi beside of her. She then fluttered her eyes open. It was 4 a.m. And Naruto? Shamsiel groggily said. There was no response back. She then stood up and turned on the lampshade. He wasn't there. Her eyes were wide open now. Naruto? She asked again. No response again. She then stood up and looked around. She then noticed something she couldn't ignore. She had the room and noticed a certain that she could pinpoint. It was a spiral spell that Succubus could conjure to teleport somewhere. She gasped. She knew exactly who would take him. That bitch! Her face was filled with rage. Her hair turned white. Her eyes turned blood red. Her one piece then turned red. She then quickly made a teleporter to go to the exact location where he was kept. Excellent work, Naruto. A figure then opened the door, clapping. Naruto turned around and noticed an older succubus who had darker skin and blonde hair, with golden S protruding from their side. Who are you? Naruto asked, standing up. The older demon smiled. My name is Mephistopheles Shahar, leader of Sanctum Cuz. That succubus you've just had your way with is my daughter and Shamsil. They really for you?" She giggled. Naruto blushed. He looked at the way she was dressed. Her s were literally not being covered due to the erotic dress she was wearing. Naruto gulped, being turned on again. His was raising upon seeing this succubus queen. "Era, are you going to have with every succubus in the world?" She blushed. She then bed his hands and made him touch both her s. "These babies are really real, you know." She blushed. She then bed his face and him down to her, allowing him to motorboat them. All of a sudden Shamsil through her portal. "Farika!" She looked at the environment. Furka's room was a dungeon. Her body was on the bed she had covered on her and was pet out, and as she turned around she saw Naruto, enjoying the ye of her mother. Hey Shamsil, it's not what you think." He then his head from her s and smiled nervously. What's with the white hair?" She sighed. "I knew they wouldn't control themselves when they saw you." "Sorry Shamsil, but you're lucky to have a man like this to yourself. It's only fair you get to share him." Mephistopheles smiled, making Naruto blush. "Oh, you guys have a harem, he's mine. Make love to those arrogant pig orcs for all I care," Shamsil growled, showing her fangs. Naruto then gingerly walked towards her and ed her pineally. Naruto then used his hands to feel her s. Although not as her mom, he could fairly say that they were the best. "Thank Kami you're still alive. I thought she would have killed you or something." "Heh, it's going to take an entire succubus army to stop me. I don't know how I did it. Maybe it's just my life essence or something that's protecting me. You know Naruto, you're the only human who's survived 2 succubi before. No humans did that before. Maybe yours just really potent." Mephistopheles shrugged at the possibility. "And his will always be mine." Shamsil then glared at her mother and playfully stuck her out. Mephistopheles rolled her eyes. "Well, we better get going. We have missions to do after we get a good rest," Naruto suggested. Shamsil nodded and clung to his arm. She wanted to kill Furka for laying a hand on her man. "Era, you're just going to leave like that? Why don't you guys rest here for at least tonight? I haven't seen you in over 7 moons. Mephistopheles complained. "Besides, Naruto needs to learn more about Succubus and our history." She winked playfully at him, causing him to blush. Remember, he was still at this point, so everything was for them to see. Shamsil hissed, but felt really tired. She didn't want to cast another teleportation spell because she was exhausted, and it might cause some further dangerous delays. "Fine," she sighed, "but I'll be watching you. You better not touch him." "Era, my daughter will be staying home," the queen and Cuz smiled. "Shamsil, see to it that Naruto takes a warm bath so you both can get situated. I'll be right back." She then walked out of the room, leaving them by themselves. Shamsil sighed and took him to her old room where she was living before she set off to meet him. "Gah, I still can't believe she kidnapped you. Sorry about that. I'm going to kill her when she wakes up," she hissed, but sighed, shaking her head. They then went upstairs. "Yeah, but it can't be helped. I think all of your sisters and probably your mom wants to meet her," Naruto smirked. "That's what I was afraid of. We're all crazed demons. The moment they find someone like you, honestly, you might not survive all of us." She giggled. "You're the first succubus slayer in recorded history or layer." Shamsil shrugged. Shamsil and Naruto were walking the palace upstairs. Although it had a dark, eerie vibe to it, it was really cozy. Naruto had to admit, it must be nice to be a part of this succubus royalty. The palace theme was red and dark purple. "Come on, I'll show you around before you take your shower," Shamsil stated as they were walking upstairs. Naruto gulped. He was pretty excited. He was going to his girlfriend's official room. With her alone, he started to grow another tie in the boxers that Mephistopheles gave him. Why didn't he see this coming? Naruto honey, you okay?" she stated. As Naruto at his pace down, she gave a dopey smile. Completely oblivious to what was going to happen the moment they stepped her room, her own personal kingdom. Sure, she told me she hadn't been home in a long time, but it was still her private space. "Naruto, relax. Let's just enjoy ourselves here for a little bit." She bed his hand ly, leaned in, and ed his cheeks. She narrowed her eyes ly and placed her hands on his bulge. "Besides, I'm pretty hungry, you know," she stated. "No one is going to hurt you here. I'll make sure of that. I'm really strong, you know, don't you trust me?" she stated, her ember eyes gazing upon his. "Yes," he said. Why? He felt pretty guilty having with Farika, but she did kidnap him and tried to make him into a husk of ash. As they approached her door, Naruto noticed several paintings of various succubus and other erotic paintings. He couldn't also help but notice Shamsiel's painting was there between her mom and Furkia. Perhaps she wasn't lying about the hierarchy. Still holding his hand, she opened the door. Naruto took a few steps forward. And after a razor second of hesitation, he looked around. Shamsiel's room was very messy, with one-piece swimsuits, tridents, posters depicting erotic acts, and several books on her bed. Upon further inspection, they were books and manuals on how Succubus can lure prey. Despite her not visiting her palace in a long time, it was still in the same state. So, what do you think of my room? She stated that she'd eat some books off the bed and placed them at her nearby desk. Her room was red/pink colored theme and had a window on top of her bed. On the right side of the room was the bathroom, which had a mirror and a tub. Naruto could barely contain his excitement. His body was starting to twitch and tremble slightly. A lot cleaner than mine. He stated that he then sat down on the edge of her bed, with Shamsiel following suit. So many different things, he remarked in wonder. He noticed a doll that kind of looked like her sitting on the bed. What's that? Naruto asked curiously. He then reached on the side of both her pillows where the doll was embedded. Oh right, that's Shamie. Shamie the succubus. I should have taken her with me. She picked it up from his hands and held it up to him. I've had this scene since I was a kid, you know. She looks just like me. She then threw it on Naruto's face. Shamie was pecking his. I'm gonna your. She said in a really high-pitched voice. Naruto couldn't help but laugh at this, hard. Something about his girlfriend's childlike antics was really cute. Hey, what's so funny? She pouted. Ahaha. Ha. Who? Wiping a tear from his eye. It's just really funny how you would have a doll. I kind of expected it. Hey, I'm not a monster, you know. What were you expecting in my room? Skulls or something? Shamsiel said. She sat down beside him again. Kind of, yeah. He shrugged. She rolled her eyes and gave him on the cheek. I'm gonna start running the hot water in the bathtub now. You need to be squeaky clean. You have Furika's germs, you. She stated. She then looked down at his boxers. Naruto's bulge was all there for her to see, and her slit eyes fluttered lusciously. Naruto's heart skipped a beat. Shamsiel being a succubus, and noticing his twitching every time was a turn-on for him. Oh, do you want to join me? He asked nervously. Shamsiel turned around to see him. She then made a scowl. She then walked up to him and sat down on his lap, straddling the shinobi. What do you think? I'm really hungry, and it's good for us to just sit down and relax, just you and me. We need to talk about a lot of things in Konoha. You did tell me we had to do missions together. She then leaned in, their faces centimeters away from each other. So let's just enjoy ourselves for the time being, any? She then bed his hands and let him touch her ass, bing them gently. Naruto then bed her one-piece swimsuit and gently read the slits away from her, undoing them at lightning speed. He to his face and between her ass, Shamsiel Edin, causing Shamsiel to shiver, as her tail to brush up on his body. Naruto stopped doing that for a second and admired Shamsiel's body. She had long, beautifully shaped legs that went up into her amazing ass and super cute. Everything about the succubus was great. Her stomach was yet very firm. Her full luscious that Naruto loved to peck with his. Her pink hair had 2 strands pointing on top of her head. And her ass were so amazing, although not as Tsunade's or Anko's, they were still great, and that's all that mattered. You're beautiful, Naruto whispered, barely hard enough for Shamsiel to hear it. What was that, Naruto? Did you say something? Did you say something about my looks and how I'm drop-dead gorgeous? Shamsiel boasted, teasing him. She did her hips back and forth, feeling every bit of his tie-in. Shamsiel felt like drooling over his. Open your for a moment, I need to give you a special gift because we used the tub, Shamsiel ordered. Naruto had no choice but to agree. He did what he was told. She then her ly, rolling her ly, and a strand of down from her and into his. Naruto at ly. He was really getting turned on by his girlfriend doing this lead act to him. After a few seconds she stopped. What do you think? I'm really tasty, right? She teased. She then leaned in and ed on his neck, her fangs scraping them ly. He ed. How are you liking my hickeys? She muffled. Naruto then all of a sudden lifted her up, his boxers falling down in the process, which left a hard arched ping with pre-bing her stomach. Come on, let's go. I need to feed you, he stated, his pointing at the bathroom door, her hands caressing her cheeks. Shamsiel's heart to flutter. She addition. She then took his hand. Tsunade's probably wondering why I haven't done a mission for about a week now, Naruto stated. They were sitting down on the bathtub with Shamsiel in front of him. It can't be helped. We just saw each other, and besides we did train a little bit with Anko. But I wasn't too concerned about that, Shamsil said. Ly. She kept being on his member when he sat down. Yeah, right after you wanted to me to death. He glared playfully. I said I was sorry. She pouted, she then to grind on him again. Yeah. He said while rolling his eyes. He liked the way her bed against his tie-in under the water. He then bed her trading yes with her, and she sighed in contentment. Blushing Kami. But then she noticed something. He was going a little bitter for her liking. She turned around. Hey Naruto, is anything the matter? He was surprised to feel his girlfriend pulling away from him. She then floated to the other side of the bathtub to look squarely at him. Is something bothering you? She decided to be upfront. You have a distant look on your face. Distant? What do you mean? I'm fine, how can I not be? He chuckled, his heart lowered. Was he that obvious? He sometimes hated his facial expressions. Her tail then slithered up to him and maggot his chin. She looked him in the eye. You talk to me, Naruto. I won't bite. Sighing, the blonde looked up at her. Well, yeah, something has been on my mind today. He then saw her eyes turning gly, and her facial expression worry. Oh no, not like that. I swear it's not. The shinobi looked back at her, frantically urging the succubus not to get the wrong idea. Well, it's kind of similar to that, but really different. He sighed, making sure to choose his words correctly. This week has been really crazy. We met and tried to me to death. You be a ninja all of a sudden, and all the other things we did together. He blushed. He then floated over to her and held her hands. And after all that, we're still here. Together, Shamsil, you mean so much to me. I don't care if this is weird love, but I love you. You're the only one who's ever been this close to me and has treated me with any sort of dignity. You mean so much to me, Shamsil, so much. It was Shamsil's turn to blush. She grasped his hands. Naruto, and I'm just worried. After all our missions, we might somehow get separated and… She then saw tears form around his eyes. I don't know, it's just scaring me, and her tail gently touched his. Shamsil's tail cupped his face. You know that's not going to happen. She gingerly at his cheeks. He smiled weakly. I know, but I promise to take care of you. I will take care of everything that happens to you. I'll protect you no matter what. Do you believe me? Her smile was warm, it seemed genuine. Naruto stared into her eyes. I'll also take care of you, Shamsil, with all your needs as a succubus. Thanks for picking me to mate he. She smiled. That's what I wanted to hear. She then poked his nose with hers and to lower her hands into the water. You cute little ninja, you. She chuckled. She then bed a hold of his. I'm starving, Naruto, so eat. He smiled and stood up, his pointing straight at her. Her was watering. I need to take care of all your needs, right? He then poked his on her cheeks and bed them on her trying to imprint them. She nodded and in a heartfelt mode. When you're about to my face, any? She then ed his a few times. Why yeah he ed ly. She then giggled and engulfed his. Naruto sighed happily as Shamsil ed on his, taking it into her, as she slid her over the opening in it. Ah yeah Shamsil, it take my. Naruto as Shamsil continue. The shinobi's S of thankfulness prompted Shamsil to him like a lollipop, only much rougher. The Thai succubus princess ed on him like a true, and Naruto to his. Shamsil closed her eyes and ed on to his as she bobbed her head up and down due to Naruto being her and having his way with them. Naruto felt his coming up as she let out a. The succubus continued her magic on her blonde lover, wanting and needing to taste his sweet. Shamsil to him, and Naruto let out a high-pitched squeal when he felt the head of his hit the back of the demon's. She ing'd the very hardest that she could, and a second later, Naruto as he spat out chunks of on her face. Shamsil blushed, and used her to swipe his, devouring the chunk of his into her. Fuh, so damn, this belongs to me. I wonder how much I can extract from your body, she stated, ing it multiple times. Kami Shamsil, you're so good at giving head. Naruto proclaimed, patting his succubus lightly on the head, causing her to shiver ly. And I love satisfying your needs. She purred as she straddled him. Naruto's immediately responded to Shamsil's why, and the fact that he could taste his on her. They remained locked in a peonate for a few moments before Naruto bed at Shamsil and pushed her down on the edge of the bathtub. Now it's my turn to you. Naruto then went and ed up and down her neck, and then down to her stomach before eventually reaching her hot pulsing slit underwater. Naruto. She bing his hair. Oh yes. Shamsil groaned, closing her eyes ly as a smile slid over her face. He still needed to breathe, so he got back up to catch his breath, ing her every time he did that. He slid her in and out of her with an even greater force as she let his hands wander her figure. Naruto, I think I'm gonna come soon if you keep that up. Shamsil said as she started. Shamsil's words only made him. Naruto loved gulping down her essence. It was his favorite thing to do. It was better than eating ramen. He even let out a few s as he practically devoured her. Naruto, Naruto yes. Shamsil screeched, Naruto screeched. Naruto was so good at giving. After what seemed like an eternity, the shinobi ate her out with an intense speed. It caused Shamsil's. Once he was sure he downed all of Shazmile's yes, he made her. Naruto, I want you to dominate. Naruto's eyes flashed, and he smirked evilly. He then hissed in heavily. Her but dangerous entrance was enough to kill almost every human man, but not Naruto's for some reason. His human molesting her with her permission was an amazing feeling, she shrieked in. Oh Kami yes! Shamsil could barely speak. She just loved letting Naruto's fill her. She loved giving herself to him. She loved just letting him and dump his onto her. Naruto started to her. She loved the joys of ing up and down his. Shamsil out. You're as amazing, having your way with a succubus like myself, caressing and touching me. You're such a bad boy. From now on you get to me until I don't know how to fly or walk again. She had bing his hair. Naruto's hands traveled towards her. Ing and ing them. Shamsil ed and Eurofria. After a several-minute cooldown, she to speak ly. Kami. My stomach, what a nice meal. Shamsil smiled, feeling her stomach. Naruto floated towards her the tub. Hope you liked the food, Shamsil-chan. He chuckled. Liked it. I loved it. This really drives me crazy, you know. She then reached for his end to it, caressing his member. Haha, thanks, Naruto said, bing the back of his head and blushing. All of a sudden a white sigil appeared on the ground, poking its head out. Both Naruto and Shamsil gasped. Mom! What the hell? She covered herself up, and Naruto did the same, out of embarrassment to see the arch-succubus queen. Sorry, I tried to call you guys, but it seems like you two were having a party here. She laughed, looking at both of them. What do you want? She hissed. Naruto looked at her, wincing. She didn't want to get on her bad side of her. I made dinner for you guys. It's just been a long time since I've seen you. I wanted to cook you a fresh meal. No thanks, we're good. Shamsil pouted, turning her head away. Shamsil, don't be such a spoiled brat. Just because we're succubus means you can't eat anything other than eat with me. She rolled her eyes at her daughter's attitude. Naruto kind of understand why these two had a falling out. She sighed, fine, but no funny stuff. I wouldn't think of it. She raised her hands in urence. Naruto, I want to know more about you, so come eat dinner with us, any? She said happily, looking at him. She narrowed her eyes, admiring the young man's toned figure. I guess so, he said, shrugging his shoulders. Now get out. We need to change, Shamsil commanded, pointing at the door. Fine, just hurry up. She closed the door. Shamsil and Naruto looked at each other. He was already at by Farika, but know that Shamsil was here. She was hoping that wouldn't have happened. There was no way that Naruto could survive a demon queen like her. Naruto sat beside Shamsil as they arrived at what was a normal-looking dinner. Whoa, Naruto said. He saw a plate full of ramen chocked with tons of shrimp. What were you expecting? Mephisu asked, giggling at him. Worm skulls or something? Kind of, yeah, he lightly replied. Mephisu rolled her eyes. As I said before, we don't only have to drink from males, we eat other things. Mephisu smiled. But if you want. She then stood up. Her ass giggled a little bit in front of him, making Naruto hitch her breath. Ma-me, stop, Shamsil commanded. She knew that Naruto got hair triggered from S and all succubus features, but she couldn't really do that much. Why did she even agree to stay again? All hush, Naruto's our visitor, an esteemed guest. Any man that can an array of succubus and still survive is honorable. The queen looked at her daughter, who had an embarrassed expression on her face. She's looked into the orb of all their acts with each other. So Naruto, what's it like in your world? I had no idea that my daughter left to go to your realm. I'm pretty sure you've seen so much stuff, right? She stated, looking over at him, crossing her hands together. Well, I'm a shinobi who has dreams of becoming Hokage. It's like a leader of village, and I love going on missions, and I can't wait to take Shamsil with me on one. She can become a really good kunoichi. Thanks, Naruto, but just remember, I'm only doing this so I could use it as an excuse to get closer to you. Shamsil quietly said, blushing, her tail to slither on his groin, tickling it, causing him to. Hey, what are you guys doing under there? Mephisu questioned, a smirk under her face, looking at her daughter. Nothing, Mom, Just minds your business for once, Shamsil grunted, rolling her eyes. Shamsil, I'm not stupid. You were teasing his with your tail, weren't you? The queen said. Naruto looked down at the table, his face red as tomatoes. He then cleared his. He begged some food from the table, surprised that they had ramen in this realm, and to eat it. Naruto just looked on while the two continued to bicker. Shamsil just went on and on about how Naruto was for her only, and that no succubus would dare touch him, his would feed only her, with Mephisto staring on in blissful ignorance, as Naruto continued to eat. Shamsil noticed something and smiled. Oh, Naruto, there's something on your cheek. I think it's sauce. Here, let me get it. Shamsil smiled. Oh, why? She then leaned towards him and ate his upper cheek. There, all gone, she stated, smiling at him. I should really be eating too, but I'm not really hungry since I had your special sauce earlier that filled me up, she giggled. Naruto, upon hearing this, choked on his ramen a little bit. Mephisto looked worried. Are you okay? Why, yeah, I'm fine. Naruto couldn't handle all the innuendos Shamsil was throwing at him right in front of her queen succubus mom. Mephisto looked at both of them and had a plan. She smirked evilly. Here, let me you a cup of water. She then walked over to them, when all of a sudden she spilled the water, causing Shamsil and Naruto to gasp. Interestingly enough, the water didn't touch him, it only spilled on the floor. Oh, I'm sorry, how clumsy of me. The queen stated. Her hand then reached over to Naruto's lap. Her hand was being the outer layer of his member. This caused Shamsil to hiss in protest. Don't touch him, she growled. Oh, relax, will you? This is my realm after all, and you really can't hog this human all to yourself. I raised you better than that. She giggled. She then off Naruto's s, revealing his hardened tie-in and pointing at Mephisto. The queen gave Naruto a wink. She took his and placed it in her. She closed her eyes and ate as if she were a lollipop. After ing for a while, she away, leaving a trail of spit behind. Damn, this aroma is great. Humans really are amazing, she whispered. She then stood up and snapped her. This caused the trio's clothes to disappear. The queen then bed her daughter, who had a shocked expression, and held her from behind. She stretched her folds, revealing how they were. Aya and Naruto stood up, but stood still, his pointing directly at Shamsil. She bit her lip. Just have your way with me, she stated, giving in to her temptations right in front of her mother. Her tail then reached to his, wrapping around him and pulling it closer to her. He was at a loss for words. This was a turn-on to be in this new realm and probably have a harem of succubus to him. But he was worried that he might piss off at least one, and they might bite his off. Shamsil would never allow that to happen, right? Naruto then leaned towards Shamsil as his positioned her. She smiled gently and blushed. A heartfelt smile was plastered on his face. He then ate on nose and cheek gently. Give me more, Shamsil whimpered. Naruto then proceeded to her pianely, bing onto her s and bing them ly. Their s would always roll off each other. Era Shamsil, you guys are so cute together, you're obsessed with his. Mephisto smiled. Shut you up. Shamsil frowned a bit but kept her composure. She saw her mother maging her s. Naruto then placed her. So, she said, gripping Naruto's back, making a mess of him. Her tail wrapped itself around. Shamsil groaned as she felt herself, her tail unwinding itself around Naruto and sliding against him gently. She said loudly. She then looked at her mother and blushed. Her mother then chuckled. You're so adorable. Mephisto then patted her daughter's head lovingly. Shamsil looked at her mother and pouted. She then cupped Naruto's cheeks and ate it. I hope you're not done yet, human. The queen blushed and stared at Naruto. She then snapped her and they three were on her elegant bed. Shamsil was on the other side of the bed trying to regain her energy after being used. Mephisto then placed two in her end. You have to lay me, you know. Her tail then wrapped on his that made it stand up. Naruto chuckled evilly at this. She then bed both of her s and positioned her face in front of his. You're very forward with your desires, the queen cooed. She then placed her on Naruto's and two. Naruto then started to make weird sounds. Mephisto smiled. She could tell by now that he enjoyed it, so she kept on ing and biting him hard. Soon the whole room was full of ing and ing noises. That feels causing the queen to grin evilly at him with his member in her. After a while of ing like this, her head, the queen made Naruto as he emptied his directly into her. She gulped it all down like an expert. Wow, yours. Mephisto smiled. Naruto blushed slightly before taking his out of her. He then got off her and queen, letting out a breath. His eyes closed, enjoying the feeling of having ed both of them. Naruto looked at the mother-daughter duo that he made love to. How did I ever manage to get myself into this situation? These succubi really want me to death. Naruto thought, his heart hitched. He loved this situation, he had access to a harem now. He turned to Shamsil, she looked at him and blinked. Why don't you attend to me again? Shamsil stated. She held her S together and smiled piantly. Naruto nodded and to her S, and the succubus ed and squealed. While Shamsil was busy ing Naruto's neck, she looked at his mom. She smiled happily as she bed her, feeling satisfied and happy, as Naruto was also in the same state. Soon Naruto stopped ing her S and looked at his mother. The queen blushed and smiled. Don't mind me, I'm just happy Shamsil is back. I now realize that I shouldn't command her to have a harem. I just want her to be happy. Nay. Shamsil nodded eagerly, agreeing with her mom. Forgive me, Mephisto whispered ing her daughter on her. Shamsil ed her back and did the same. I'm not angry at you, we just had a fallout, that's all. I just needed to get away from this realm and clear my head. And then I saw Naruto, and I couldn't go back. Shamsil said, looking at the blonde-haired shinobi. He blushed slightly. I'm really happy she into my life. Shamsil is so awesome. Her body, her voice, just everything. Naruto ecstatically said, smiling widely at Shamsil. The pink-haired succubus blushed and tackled him so she was on top. She planted plenty of yes on him. Mephisto laughed. So, you two are technically married, right, due to Shamsil's marking? She pointed. Yep, Shamsil said. Naruto raised his eyebrow. Marriage? You never told me that when you performed the ritual on me, Shamsil-chan. Sorry Naruto. I never really told you since I got caught up in this of yours, Shamsil whispered. She then bed a hold of it, and ed the head, eliciting S from the blonde shinobi. You know, this is the first time marriage between a succubus and a human ever occurred. Most men in your position would have died upon UL contact with a succubus. However, you seem to be different. There's something special about you and your... Mephisto smiled. Yeah, you seem to be so different than most humans, but you are very kind towards me, so as stated before, you can have with me however you want. I'm technically a slave to your now. Shamsil giggled. Why yeah, we should probably get going. Naruto stood up. We have to go back to Konoha. Bachan is probably wondering where I am. Where is he? Where is he? A voice was roaring behind the door. It was none other than Furika-chan. She had opened the door which led to the queen's room. Her angry mood changed right after the moment she saw the trio in her mother's bed. Shamsil and Mephisto's faces were matted in Naruto's. Oh hey, Furika, did you enjoy the ing I gave you? Naruto stated, giving her a wide grin. Shamsil giggled. Normally she would pounce on Furika-sama and beat her to a pulp with her fists and tail, but she to have other thoughts on revenge. Why you violated me? A human like yourself shouldn't be able to do that to an elite succubus like me, she growled. Well, you did kidnap him. Naruto is just that special and could have his way with any of us, Mephisto exclaimed, her ass being the back of his shoulders. Humph, even if he could take any of us down, he wouldn't have wanted you. He would have preferred me. Furika spat at them. You're just jealous because I found him first. Naruto is still mine, and we're technically married. I'm surprised this didn't make you melt or something. Shamsil stuck his out. Furika blushed. Looking at them, it's not fair. Hey Naruto, why don't we teach her a lesson and get our revenge? Shamsil smiled deviously, her eyes turning red. He looked at Shamsil, whose tail was wrapped around him and emitted a red glow. He was turned on to the fullest. Mephisto nodded and agreed with her daughter. I agree, Shamsil. We're going to you until you can't walk. Mephisto smiled at her daughter. This was something that wasn't natural in the human realm. But incest is completely normal. A succubus mother can have her way with an incubus son if she yes, and vice versa. Furika gasped as Naruto flashed behind her. His arms wrapped behind her and cupped her ing them ly. She ed in, trailing in her. Naruto ed the back of her neck, nibbling on it. Damn, you taste so good, Furika. I also have a surprise. I didn't know I didn't do this before. He then conjured several clones. Furika, Shamsil, and even Mephisto ed in shock. What? How? 3 Narutos? Shamsil's was wide open. Kagebushin no Jutsu main, Naruto said. It's really effective for decoys, and also having. Naruto 2 nodded. Yeah, I'm surprised boss didn't mention this before. Naruto 3 stated. Their S were so impressive S that were almost ping with pre. The trio of succubis to water, and Shamsil's cheeks blushed furiously. She was ready to get ed by her man or mans in this case. Furika just stood as main Naruto carried her to the queen's bed, laying her down gently. The queen was smirking wickedly. She bid her. Now let's begin. This will be fun. Naruto bed Furika and pushed her to the bed. his clones surrounding her as Shamsil and Mephisu just watched. "Boss, can we really have our way with her?" the first Naruto said. "She's all yours," the original Naruto giggled. The clone trio made a stupid smirk as they pounced on Furika. She looked at the 3 clones of Naruto surrounding her with their S pointed and aiming directly at her. Well, 2 of them were on her side and the first clone was positioned at her entrance. The elite succubus looked even more turned on. She loved being and kind of fantasized about being by this human that she just kidnapped. Giggled. "She's really bitchy at first, but once you give her some S, she's really submissive." Mephisu blushed, loving what her daughter was going through. "Furika, use your hands." The second Naruto clone Ed, he then bent her hands and placed it on his. "Furika, you know that's not enough, you should know better." Mephisu glared at her. She blushed and then to the clones furiously. "Much better, Succubus must eat men in order to extract their," she declared. The first Naruto was just nearly 10 minutes into it, and she had lost track of the number of times she had. Naruto's first clone sped up. Shamsil, who had leaned up against Naruto enjoying her sister like this, smiled. "Looks like your clone has the same tail fetish as you, interesting." Shamsil giggled. The original Naruto just leaned in and ate her girlfriend on the. "Are you hungry, Shamsil? You know I'll always give you want you to want," Naruto whispered. He then stood on his knees, poking his heart in on her cheeks. Shamsil's eyes lowered, and leaned in to give it a few pecks on the head. "You really know how to push my ons, don't you?" Shamsil smirked evilly, letting his her face. "You know me too well," Naruto whispered. They both flinched. "Mom, I forgot you were here," she growled while blushing. "Sorry, I just find this really adorable. My daughter falling in love with a human, and not just any human, a human that can survive her ing. You're amazing, Naruto. Hehehe. I do what I can." He showed his trademark grin while banging the back of his head. "Why don't you give me a clone that I can also play with? It's not fair that you're just leaving me hanging." Naruto obeyed and summoned his clones. They were just like him. Mephisu was ecstatic. "You 3 come. Else you're gonna miss the of a lifetime," she blushed, winking at them. The clones all nodded their heads dumbfoundedly. She then them by their S and went to another empty room. With a single snap their S were lengthened, and the trio of clones smiled into a shit-eating grin. Furika was still being ed by the original clones. "You shouldn't have kidnapped our boss and almost killed him. You should have known this was probably going to happen," Naruto's first clone said. "Tried to swallow your pride, or should I say our." Both of the Narutos on the side said. "Her silky red hair is clunky with my." The Narutos then grunted. A wave of spurted onto and into Furika-sama's hair, face, nose, and eyes. And Furika loved every moment of it, her pupils shaped into hearts. Never had someone like this had such power over her. Naruto was truly a machine. "I hope you learned your lesson about kidnapping my Naruto." Shamsil stuck her out. His clones all collapsed around Furika, exhausted and loose about what transpired. Furika's face and body were caked in there. "I love see," she smiled stupidly. Shamsil giggled and went to her, patting her head. "It's good to have vengeance, isn't it?" Furika groaned and ignored her. She turned around and wanted to sleep. Shamsil turned around to Naruto. "Let's go to my room again. I want you all to myself. I want you to make sure I and Shamsil flashed her fangs, looking at his, which made her. Naruto chuckled evilly and flashed right behind her, being the succubus bridal style before going into her room. As they did that, they heard Mephisu ing the life out of his clones. When they got to her room, Naruto placed her ly on the bed like a princess. He was on top of her, planting so many es on her face, and then ing her s like it was his dinner, his bing furiously on her stomach. Shamsil ed erotically at this. Naruto ed her cheeks and groped her s. He was her. "I love you!" Naruto gasped between es. Love you too." Before Naruto her legs, and she wanted to try something. "Wait, I have an idea," she smiled. "Ah, what is it?" "I wanna your," Naruto whined her. I know, just wait." She then stood up and looked at him, putting her hands on her hips. Naruto looked confused. She smiled. She then snapped her and the room was pitch black. After a few moments, the room lit up again. What Noro saw made him smile, and his twitched. Shamsil was wearing a black set, a lacy black that didn't even do a good job at shielding her. "You like what you see of me. Succubus can have the ability to change into something really skimpy in moments. So, what do you think?" Shamsil's hands clasped on each other while her wings fluttered. Naruto stood up, walked towards her, smiled and clasped her cheeks with her hands, and leaned into her. "So beautiful." That was all that he could say. His cheeks were red just like hers. "I just want to take care of you and have my meal. I know I'm distracting you from being a ninja, and I'm sorry you forgive me. All of a sudden, her for forgiveness were silenced by his on the. You're not, you actually saved me from going insane or something, Naruto stated. Don't get mad at yourself, you're too cute for that. He whispered, nibbling on her neck. Oh, Naruto, her tail wrapped around them as their foreheads pressed together. Let's feed you, he whispered. He sat down on the bed, his hitched, come sit on my lap, Shamsil, he gestured, his hands opening up to her. Shamsil nodded and slid her thong down. His breath took in a sharp inhale, and his lungs stopped working. Her perky S were such a turn-on for him ever since he saw them in the forest. Overarching, their senses were completely overtaken by the sounds, feelings, and ments of their body. He D down to her rapidly beating pulse point and ed her before ing again. His was addicted to her folds. He was ing her earlobes. Wow, Naruto, you're so amazing. Looks like you're exorcising the demon. She winked, and stuck her out. He giggled and ed her. He was ing very quickly as they were looking at each other's eyes. Naruto loved staring at her unique demon eyes. You could tell they were hungry for his. With one final, Shamsil's walls clamped down on him hard. It was like a vice, and it was something Naruto had never experienced before. His body edged slightly as his finally exploded from him, and his was beginning at her, both their bodies. Naruto felt for a moment that he was about to die, remembering that Shamsil was a succubus, but nothing happened to him. Their muscles just gave out as Naruto collapsed just a few centimeters from her face. I love you, Shamsil, we're technically married. Why, yeah, I know. She said ing. Her whole body was a mess, and his was floating her. Shamsil leaned towards him and planted a thanks for the meal. My husband. Husband. That had a nice ring to it. Smiling sweetly at her, Naruto leaned in and ed her again before using his hand to cup her cheek. Husband and wife. Pretty amazing art. He said, patting her head and then poking her ass. She blushed and nodded. Although it was pretty hasty, he was glad that Shamsil marked him. He would technically still be a loser if it wasn't for her. We should probably get going now, Naruto stated. He stood up and picked his clothes off the floor. The succubus also stood up and stretched her body. Her legs were pretty wobbly after all the that they'd been having. You're right, I want to go back to Konoha. There's just so much to do there. She said. She snapped her and her whole voluptuous body was covered again by the ninja outfit that Tsunade gave her. We should probably tell Mephisu that we're leaving. Naruto chuckled. Yeah, I think she's still getting ed by your clones. And Furika is still recovering again. She's really obsessed with me. He laughed nervously. Shamsil growled. She still had bitter feelings toward her sister but loved the revenge that she witnessed earlier. Sorry, I forgot how much she's indifferent to you. Let's hurry up and go, Naruto ordered. They both left her room and went to Mephisu's room. When they opened the door, what they saw wasn't surprising. Mephisu's skin was covered by Naruto's clones, from her face to her stomach, with a stupid Thai smile. Whoa, look what your clones did to her. Shamsil smiled. She floated towards her mom and swiped off her mom's skin, and took some in her. Ah, yours so lively, Naruto-sama, or clones in this context. She smiled, swallowing it professionally. Thanks, I guess. Even though Naruto didn't, even Mephisu, his clones did. But he was so concentrated on Shamsil's body and needs that he didn't even care. Mama, Shamsil stated, caressing her ass to get her attention. We're leaving. We're going back to Konoha. The queen immediately stood up. Hey, you guys are leaving. Why? Why can't he stay here? He can feed 1,000,000 of us with his, it's so potent. And his clones were so amazing. No other species can do that here. Shamsil rolled her eyes. Finders keepers, he's mine and that's final. Shamsil said in a demanding voice. You can't leave. A voice was behind them. They turned around. Furika, Shamsil quietly said she saw her sister still, and her body caked in Naruto's. I don't want anyone else but him. The succubus stated. She walked towards him and held his arm, her ass pressing down on him, causing Naruto to wince, blushing to see a demon hold him like this. You stay here with me. It's obvious that you don't even want to become a Hokage, is it? Just stay here with us. I'll do anything for you. Furika's purple eyes stared into his blue eyes. Shamsil saw this and immediately frowned. Her stomps grew louder. He's mine, Furika. Go an orc or something. You can't just leave like that. Finders keepers. And besides, he's married to me. Shamsil shouted. She then downed his ass and showed them the mark, which was an exact replica of the seal on Shamsil's left face cheek. Mephisu laughed. All right, I think that settles it, Furika. You stated multiple times that you wanted to succeed me as queen. You can't follow them to Konoha. You must stay here and attend to your harem. Furika growled, but nodded and bowed her head. She knew she couldn't do anything to override the queen's decision. Sigh, fine. She stared at them, Shamsil clinging onto Naruto while floating. She knew she couldn't deny that her sister was truly in love with him, and it's no wonder why. At 6 feet 1 inch, he was muscular, had a well-defined six-pack, amazing biceps, and that hair, blue eyes that made Shamsil's tingle. Hers too. You two belong together, just promise me one thing, Shammy. She walked towards her and held her hands. She planted her on Shamsil's own, her own sister. Naruto looked at them, his twitching seeing these two sisters. I guess this is normal for succubus in this realm. Farika Shamsil ed into the meanwhile. Mephisa gushed at the sight of her two daughters and each other in a loving manner. Naruto coughed awkwardly. Shamsil and Farika both stared at him. Say, sis, why don't I give you a treat of his before we go? Shamsil suggested. That would be wonderful. Promise you guys will come back. I can't get enough of him. Me too. Mephisa floated behind them, their eyes turned red staring at Naruto, who was chuckling nervously. Oh, line break. Naruto was blindfolded and tied to a chair with his leg out, and his was pointing toward the trio who just gazed at him. Am I ever going to get out of this realm? He thought. He figured he just played along due to Farika and Shamsil making amends. You're so lucky to have a man like this, Shamsil. Farika pouted, staring at his glistening era. I know. I'm so glad he's my husband. Maybe someday he can be the king of demons in our realm. His is so amazing. Watch. No magic, he gets turned on by my near touches. Shamsil smiled. Naruto overheard this. His was twitching while leaking pre-dash. Shamsil, just like in the ritual, reached her hands to touch his. Within a few moments, Naruto's face turned red, and spurted out ropes on their faces. Amazing. Farika said. Kami. This is incredible. Mephisa stated, her with. Farika did the same. I know. Shamsil giggled. Farika then leaned towards his and to mage her S with it. Naruto didn't know who was touching him at that moment but didn't even care, he was having the time of his life. Naruto groaned as the sisters worked together on the job, his head several times. This is probably the reason Farika wanted this in the first place. He thought of, all of a sudden his blindfold was taken off. He looked up and saw the succubus queen smiling at him. Here, take this. She leaned towards him and pushed her S to his. Taste me, she quietly said. Naruto's eyes lowered and he did what he was told, her S and wrapping his around her. Her body tensed up and she let out a long. She bit a handful of his hair and tugged harshly, making Naruto her S with ease. She gasped, what a greedy human. She stated, Naruto honey, we love helping you enjoy yourself. Shamsil sounded filthy as hell, talking to her husband like this. Relive the stress if you have any. We want to thank you for amending the bridge between us. Farika stated, their bodies sent shivers down his spine, though they could have come from the double job he was reciting instead. Ah, Kami! All you guys have been doing is me with your demonic wide bodies. It's so awesome! He shouted, Mephises. After he said that, he sifted his hands to her warm, silky blonde hair. The of perfume and invading his nose, and the sight of his mother-in-law and sister-in-law along with Shamsil worshipping his body was simply intoxicating. He couldn't stop, he wanted to all of them till he was satisfied and their stomachs looked like 9-month pregnant women. It's Naruto-kun's fault for having such a... Farika complimented, giving his member a quick peck with her. Her eyes turned red, she adjusted her technique to one tie at a time, up and down the sides of his. Shamsil doing the same, for Shamsil's let go of his member. Farika's. Naruto ed as Farika's was working its magic on him. Kami, look at my daughters working together. Naruto was in a daze. He's going wild, isn't he? This refuses to go down. The two sisters were being his furiously. All of a sudden Naruto was convulsing as his spat out waves and waves on the sisters' faces. Wow, still so much, you're the best. Farika sighed in contentment. Naruto smiled as they both had their covered hand. Mephisa was also his cheek while grinning at him. I've never seen them unite like this before. Mephisa stated as he had Naruto's cheeks. Thank you for letting them play with you. Ha ha ha, no problem. Naruto clenched his teeth in a smile. Line break. Take care, Shamsil. Invite me to any of your Konoha adventures. Or she stared at Naruto. Any more risque things you guys will do? I'm always going to be here. Shamsil walked towards her sister, and ed her ly. She took in the. Take care, Farika. I'll always come back to my realm. But I want to stay close to Naruto. I want to take care of my husband's needs. PSH. Or maybe him dry till there's no left. Shamsil rolled her eyes. He won't die. He's already proven himself. We've had plenty of times just right now and he hasn't died yet. Naruto turned to her with a mortified expression. She giggled and gave him a quick peck on the cheek. Just kidding. It's a shame you two can't stay for a little while. But Naruto has responsibilities just like any other ninja to become Hokage, I suppose. I hope you're not going to distract him, Shamsil. Hey, I'm really cute. It's going to happen sometimes. She shrugged her shoulders, and Naruto laughed. Okay guys, we should really go now. I have no idea what time tea is in my realm. Well, you should probably get going, Nay. Just come back for us so we can take care of that once again. She winked at Naruto, who blushed and looked down. Alight, bye mom, bye Farika. Shamsil said. Goodbye. They both waved, as the sigil transported them to Naruto's room. Line break. It was midnight in Konoha. There was a new moon that night, so the entire town seemed to be lost in darkness. Perfect conditions for Shamsil as they finished transporting into Naruto's room. They both looked around. Ugh, this is pretty cliché. Come on Naruto, let's go out for a night on the town. Farika bent Naruto's arm and tugged him out of the room. Wait, he halted himself as Farika him outside and closed the door. Where do you want to go? The mountain with the faces, she replied. Oh, Naruto said unsure. He smiled and let her yank his arm. She most likely meant the Hokage monument. The dark sky breeze was perfect, and Naruto and Shamsil sat atop of the Hokage monument. You can see the whole village up here, so cool. Shamsil's eyes lit up. She felt comfortable doing this, but she let her wings and tail appear from out of her body, causing him to freak out. Don't worry. No one's here, Shamsil said, looking around. He did the same thing and let his guard down after seeing no one near them. So what mission are we going to do tomorrow? Kill an evil spirit, save a citizen, destroy something? Shamsil asked annoyingly. I don't know yet. Tomorrow we just have to ask Tsunade. Since you're new, I think we're going to get C-rank missions. Oh, Shamsil said a little befuddled. And since we were kind of bunking off, I think it's settled. Naruto sighed. He knew that all that they were doing in her realm was probably a long time. There was no way he could come up with an excuse for that. She could see him worry, so she wanted to change the topic quickly. She hated when he was sad in any way. So, now that we're technically married. She twiddled her thumbs. I want to know more about you. Well, that would make sense since you told me about yourself and I already was in your realm. He chucked, but after that, he stared Ly in her eyes. I'm a Jinchuriki. I hold the Kyubi no Yoko. I have it sealed in my body. Everyone has treated me like an outsider. I don't know why. I'm a human like everyone else. When I was in the academy, Sakura and Ino would always gravitate towards Sasuke because he was the cool one. And I was just a freak to them. Naruto could feel his tears swell up. He felt a single set of tears fall. He felt a single tail touch his. Sure, Naruto, I'm really sorry about what you went through. People are just meanies. And you're right, the future isn't certain. Neither of us really knows for sure what will happen. The succubus smiled. But I'm really happy that I'm spending my life with you, Naruto. You're really amazing. I know I want to be with you, my family, and I love you so much, Nay. Bang her nose against his. Naruto smiled at her words. She was right. Why mope around when his life changed? He felt protected with her at his side. Shamsil holding onto her hands and locking his eyes with his. He leaned in and at her. Even though he was really perverted with her and wanted to her with every time he locked eyes with her, he still loved wholesome moments like this. Shamsil was ing him with while her tail was wrapped around them, making a heart shape. And that's exactly what it was. Their hearts both fluttered towards each other, and she snuggled closer to him as they ed the night. Thanks for watching this video. You really enjoy this video. Like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow MisoSparks for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.